Alright guys, you voted on it, and here it is. The story about how my reconnaissance team stole a tank from the Russians. After this video gets posted on Sunday, there will be a poll up on the community posts. Go ahead and check that out, and let me know which of those 4 choices you want to hear as the next story time. And let's get into it. So this story took place in mid-October 2022. I had just returned back from Kiev after doing my first interview with Operator Starsky. So it's about 2 in the morning, and I get a phone call from my TC Manak, and he's like, Yuri, get Browning ready, come downstairs. And I'm like, okay, cool, we're going to be doing some cool stuff tonight. The only time we ever did anything before the sunrise where we were getting ready to go out on mission was we were going to hit a Russian position, either a trench or the village or something. So I'm like, okay, cool, we're going to do something really cool tonight. I'm living on the 10th floor of this apartment building, and you know, we're not trusting the elevator. So I'm literally carrying this Browning down all 10 floors. Not just the Browning, I'd run the receiver down first, then I'd run the barrel down, then I'd run my body armor, my personal weapon, and you know, anything else that I needed to bring. So there was a little room right at the base of the stairs that I'd actually put the Browning in, and it wasn't like anybody was going to steal this Browning or anything, especially at 2 in the morning. There was like literally nobody in the building. There was only like 2 or 3 apartments that were occupied that were not soldier occupied. So I run the Browning and all my equipment down. I get outside. There was this little dumpster area I'd actually wait by. So the Humvee comes up. I hop into the Humvee. We lock the 50 cal in. I set the barrel. I do the headspace and timing on the barrel. And then we roll out to this industrial place where it was our base. So we had our ammo. We had our fuel supply and stuff there. We go over there, we start getting fueled up. I go into the armory and I start grabbing some more 50 cal ammo. We only had like 600 rounds inside the Humvee at the time. And he's like, Yuri, no need. I was like, okay. And then I start grabbing like another AT-4 because I had the one AT-4 that, you know, I'd brought back home with me, and it was on, you know, inside the Humvee with me. And he's like, Yuri, don't need. And I was like, what are we doing? Why can't I bring all this extra ammo and this weapon? And he's like, it's okay. They didn't want to tell me. And here's generally why. I mean, you guys already know the spoiler alert, we stole a tank. So what you guys didn't know was back when I was part of this reconnaissance group, and we actually went out into these villages and stuff, I would take stuff. The first mission I went out on, I had found this radio. Straight up took it because I wanted it. Like, let's you know, call it as it is. I was like, oh, I love commo stuff. I have a ton of American commo stuff here back in the States. Now I want some Russian commo stuff, so I actually ended up taking this radio. And then I also had found on that same mission like an RPG-18, so of course I was taking it. And then I found like this exact RPG-18 that you see right there. I had found leaning up against the wall of the house. And these were occupied villages. These were villages that were behind enemy lines that the Russians were in. The very first thing I had actually found was a hat. I straight up took it as a souvenir. And then when I found a couple of jackets and took those. I even took a sleeping bag at one point in time. And it was just really this funny, you know, started out as an inside joke. And it was kind of like this running joke about me, about like how I would just take all this crap from the Russians. So the commander, he was a little bit confused and stuff, and he was like, you know, Yuri, why are you taking this junk? And I was like, I'm messing with the Russians. You see, the commander already didn't like this other Ukrainian guy that was in the teams, and he generally hated this Ukrainian going on missions with him. There was actually a fist fight at one point in time between the commander and this one Ukrainian guy. And I was like, you know that Ukrainian guy you don't like? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, imagine your jacket went missing. who's the first person you're going to kind of accuse? It's going to be this Ukrainian guy because you already don't like him, right? So this is going to create instability within the team because your jacket, which was here yesterday, is now gone, now disappeared. So you have no idea that your jacket just vanished. And you're going to start accusing people around you because, you know, you had no idea, the Ukrainians, that we came in like ghosts into this village and then we left like ghosts. So you had no idea we were even there. So it was kind of a psychological thing that I was doing, and I also thought it was kind of funny. So we're back at the supply base. We're getting the fuel and stuff, and Manaki doesn't want to tell me crap. He doesn't want to tell me what the mission is because I don't know. Like, he just wanted to, I guess, see my face. So we actually load up with a couple of Ukrainian soldiers that we're going to take out to the trench system anyway. They were supposed to go out later on that day, but then we decided, hey, since this is an opportunity, we're going to take these guys with us. So we load up the Humvee. For the trip, most of the trip out there, I have the door to the hatch to the turret closed. I'm sitting on top of the hatch because we had like 6 dudes in the back seat of our Humvee, and then the other Humvee that we were with, we also had like another 6 dudes. And we roll out to the staging point, which is just outside of Mykolaiv. We wait there for a little bit, and then we continue pushing on to another position. We kick out a couple of the dismounts. We leave them there, and then at that point in time, I can open the hatch. I stand down inside the turret, and we go straight toward the front line. Still, I have zero idea what's going on. And once we got to the front line, so we get to this one tree line, and on the other side of that tree line is a whole bunch of Russian positions, right? So basically, we are the closest you can get to the tree line. We're, you know, using night vision and stuff to drive that last kilometer in. And we get there, and as we stop and we pull into this little dugout area for the Humvee, we kill the engine, and I hear one of the Ukrainians, very familiar voice, is like, Yuri, come look. And I was like, oh, it's, you know, so-and-so. I'm not going to throw his name out here, but, you know, he was the 2IC, the second in command of this assault team. And I went on missions with him before and stuff like that. And I come down and, you know, stand in a little bit further down the tree line, there's another little dugout area for vehicles. And he's like, Yuri, look. So I'm like, oh, neat, a tank. Then I got to look at it, and the tank itself was actually backed in to this tank ditch. And you can see the glacis plate, the front sloped armor of the tank, was this huge Z. And I'm like, oh, crap, it's a Russian tank. And the 2IC guy, he's just standing there smiling at me. And then I see the commander, and he's standing on top of the tank up on the other side of the turret. And he's like, Yuri, is that you? And I was like, oh, what's up? And he comes around and he throws up his arms, and he's like, and then he throws it down and he's pointing at this huge Z, and he's like, I got something bigger than you. And I start laughing, and it was just this interaction between my old reconnaissance commander and just, you know, now this tank that they had captured. And like everything else, like when I was taking stuff from the villages and stuff, like I would take the jackets and stuff. We took some jackets that had patches and stuff, and we would divide them up amongst the guys in the team just so that, you know, everybody got little souvenirs from these missions. But, you know, when I had the RPG-18, he's like, give me, and I was like, no, I'm carrying this back. I found it. It's mine. And it was not just that. It was RPG-18. We got some like VOG-25 grenades. We got a ton of stuff from the Russians when we were doing these infiltrations in these villages. But then at this moment in time, he now has something that he has taken that like I can't compare to. And I was like, oh man, I wish I could go back into the teams with you guys. I'm having way too much fun in the Humvees right now, but the level of just stuff that I used to do with these guys, even though that a lot of it I couldn't really film due to the fact that we were operating at night and my camera doesn't really pick up anything in very low light conditions or even mid light conditions. Like you can't see anything on that helmet cam. So I'm like, dude, you are the master. You are the ultimate the master thief now, because you've taken something that I could never take. So I'm trying not to cuss. Keep cussing in this video, so I'm trying to edit that out. But I'm like, what the heck are you guys doing with this tank? And he's like, we stole this. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, how? Like, my mind's like blowing up. And he's like, oh, we were on this mission, because I remember we sent them out on mission like a day before. And he was like, yeah, when we went out on this mission, we were coming back, and then we went to this Russian position. So back then, the Russian positions were so far apart from each other, you literally can drive, Humvees between the front lines and get to the rear and assault rear positions with the Humvees. And we did that actually a lot. And that's because they did not have... This is right after the Kherson and Kharkiv counteroffensive had started. So those things started at the end of August, beginning of September. And, we're now in October. So Russia had already started its mobilization, but still did not have the adequate numbers to push to the front line yet. So there were positions that might be staffed with a couple Russian soldiers or, smaller units and stuff, but they couldn't outfit all their positions. This tank was sitting at one of these Russian positions, just sitting there, camouflaged and stuff. When the Ukrainian team came across it, they were split. Half the team just wanted to blow up the tank and then, continue on getting out of there. The other team was like, hey, let's take it. There was literally no Russians in that area. They actually had searched that tree line to make sure that there were no sleepy Russians or anything. And so then they had decided that the Russians at some point in time parked this tank. And then the tank crew just left. They're not too far from this position. There's a small village. And they're assuming that the tank crew just parked the tank right there and then went to this position. And again, it's a good kilometer behind their front lines. So it's not like it was all the way up at the zero line and there would be other defensive positions right there. So they're like, oh, okay. Half the team separated. They went back to the Ukrainian positions, and the other half of the team, with the commander and the second in command and stuff like that, they stayed by the tank, and they kind of guarded it. They also made sure that there were no Russians around. They didn't really have anything to blow it up with, too, by the way. So the commander and the second in command stay with the tank. They're sweeping the area, make sure that there's no Russians in that area. And half of the team, they actually go back to the Ukrainian positions, telling these guys, was like, hey, look, we're stealing this tank. We're bringing a tank over. Don't shoot the tank. Don't worry about the tank. The tank is captured because, they don't want any incident. The team itself, they did have a couple guys there that they did know how to start and drive a T-72. I actually learned how to start and drive a T-72 while I was out there. So, I really wish I was on mission with them, but, So if I wasn't in the Humvee, I would have actually been part of this assault mission that would have captured this tank, and, I would have been more integral into the story. So, although I wasn't the one that was out there taking this tank, it was something that was still really funny to me, because the one thing, when the commander came up, the team commander had come up to me and has like, Yuri, this is us fucking with the Russians. And I was like, dude, somebody's gonna get fired. And we're not talking about end of employment. We're talking about end of life kind of fired for this mistake. And they laugh, I laugh, we all had a good time. But the whole purpose of the Humvees going out there was we needed to bring paint, and we also spray painted off that Z from the tank itself. So we needed to paint over this big Z and also paint a square. And at this time we had the plus sign, a triangle, and a square, which were the unit identifiers for friendly Ukrainian units. So we basically needed to remove the Z, put this square, and then that way we could safely drive it back to the rear. From, you know, the front lines, because we're at the 0 line, like the next tree line over, that's a Russian position. If you're about to like comment, it's like, oh, well, wouldn't the Russians hear the tank? Tanks are heard all the time at night. That's one of the safest times either side would use to relocate a tank from one position to the other. So the most eerie thing that you would have, because I've been out on these trenches, like I said, from late July all the way up until the beginning of September. I was doing these assaults with these guys. I was in these trenches. I was on these positions. The most eerie sound that you could actually hear at night was the creaking of tank tracks. And it is like, you know how sound travels at night? You could be 2 or 3 miles away from a tank and you could hear that whining, creaking noise of the tank as it's driving by, and you don't know if it's an MTLB or a T-72 or a T-90 or whatever. You can't really differentiate the vehicle types through the tracks. And you don't know if it's coming at you, if it's just driving parallel, if it's, you know, going to the position that you're going to go to, or what. So it's actually a real crazy, surreal moment of, you know, having to deal with the tanks. Or having to deal with this while fighting. We end up removing the Z. We wait a little bit until dawn because, again, you know, we don't want any friendly fire incidences. As the sun starts to rise, we start up the tank, we start up the Humvees. I had fallen asleep in the backseat of the Humvee. That's why this B-roll footage that you guys were watching, it has me just down in the Humvee. Like, I had completely conked out. Like, you know, if anything started, if firefight started or whatever, you know, it literally takes me 2 seconds to pop out of the hatch of the turret, you know, remove that safety 50 cal round, and then just start laying fire down to where it needs to go. But, you know, we had enough Ukrainian soldiers around us. They were pulling sentry duty and stuff. So I'm actually passed out, and I was actually so much asleep because I'm just exhausted. Mind you, every day up to this day, I was out on mission, doing missions. So it was waking up early, going out on missions, having these massive amounts of adrenaline dumps, and then just crashing out, and then, you know, waking up the next day and had not had really good sleep during this time. So I'm in the back seat, wake up right as we start driving, and then as we're driving, I turn on my camera, and at a few moments, I'm like, should pop up, and then I decide to finally pop up, get out of the turret, see the vehicle, the Humvee in front of us, look behind us, I see the tank is following us still, and I was like, oh, neat, and then that's when I started filming the actual tank itself following us. So basically, we took it from the front lines, and we had to go through 2 different areas of control. So there is the rear staging position area. We brought it all the way there, and then from there, there's a hard line communication. So not radio, it's literally like telephone. And we let the rear positions know that it's like, hey, we're bringing this tank, this Russian tank with us, you know, don't shoot at us. And then basically the entire time as we're driving, the tank is really just backed up behind the Humvees. We bring it to another secondary position, we grabbed some dudes, and then we continued on. And then the tank, actually, once we hit the main MSR that led between Mykolaiv to Kherson, the tank actually went straight. It went through that intersection, and there was, down that road there would be a tank depot or something, I believe, that would handle this tank, and then we would continue on. I really regret that. I wish I had kind of made it more of a purpose to stop, and I would have told the guys, like, hey, let's stop, let's all get a photo. Like, I wanted to do a whole photo in the daytime. We didn't want to do it at the position at night. And it would have been really good, because also right there was there was like this little side of the road rest stop area that we had drove past, and it would have been great to have like a unit photo next to this captured Russian tank. I had my St. Javelin flag and everything, and that's kind of like one of the regrets. They just continued on to their mission, and then we just continued on to our mission, and all I have right now is these few short videos of the time our reconnaissance guys took an enemy tank and drove it from behind enemy lines to Ukrainian lines, and then we escorted them the rest of the way. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Channel update. Every other Sunday I plan on posting a story time. After the story time has been posted, there will be a poll for you guys to participate in. Let me know what the next story time you want to hear is. I will be getting all of these story times eventually told. I just kind of want to see which ones you guys are most interested in for my next story time. And then I will be also uploading some more of my raw footage, as well as other footage. I've been going through my hard drives. I have hours of content. Like, I posted my firing the PKM with both the plastic links and the metal links. That's already up on my channel. When I go back out to Ukraine here shortly, I will probably be doing a more in-depth video, especially with a lot of the stuff that I have that's kind of incomplete. And also there's even tons of photos and videos that are on my master hard drive at my apartment in Ukraine that I need to pull that stuff off of. So there's been a huge lull this past 2 years of any kind of content that I can make, because when I left Ukraine, I did grab the wrong hard drive. I should have grabbed the master hard drive and brought that back with me, but I will be bringing that one back with me so that I can, really show you guys a lot of the stuff that I've been doing in Ukraine. So, hope you guys are having a good one. Slava Ukraine.